Good morning. In this video, we're going to be talking about the connection between cigars, Cuba, and Cohiba, right? So Cohiba is a very premium brand. It's a premium brand cigar, and Castro used to smoke it when he was the dictator of Cuba. So a lot of people, if you know the history of cigars, you know that Cubans were the biggest cigar producers back in like the 40s, 50s, and 60s. What ended up happening was the embargo, right? The Cuban Missile Crisis, and then JFK basically putting embargo on Cuban goods. And also on the flip side, in Cuba, Castro basically destroyed any industry of the Cuban cigar industry, right? So that's why I say, you know, communism is not that great, because it's like a cancer, it destroys everything, right? So now, what's the connection to Scarface? Well, have you ever seen the movie Scarface with Al Pacino? He was a Cuban refugee coming to America, and obviously if you've seen the movie, right, spoiler alert, you know, he gets to the top of the drug trade in Miami, and then he ends up, you know, being the top guy, and then obviously he dies in that famous scene, you know, at the end, right? So why is that important? Is because the connection between the movie and Scarface and Cuban cigars is very, very paramount, because I would say that a lot of people, they watched The Godfather, they watched Scarface, and they started smoking cigars. If you think that movie is not influential in men smoking cigars and masculinity, you have another thing coming, right? So and I think a lot of men, actually, I was talking to a guy at the cigar lounge, and he was saying that back in the 90s, the reason why he started smoking cigars was because of the fact that he watched Scarface, right? So all this stuff is very influential. And so how cigars in Hollywood, right? So I'm going to get into that. I got a little bit of time left on this video, so I'll get into that. Cigars in Hollywood, right? So cigars were kind of like a rebellious thing in Hollywood before basically the anti-tobacco people came in and said, oh, this is bad, right? This is not the persona that we want. But back in the 40s and 50s, most of the men were masculine. Where do you think James Bond came from? He was pretty much, he wasn't smoking, but he had a stogie in his hand. All that to say is there's a link between all this stuff, right? So to kind of wrap up, Cohiba was big in Cuba, and then, you know, Castro smoked them, and then obviously he destroyed the industry. So that's pretty much the connection between Cuba, cigars, and Scarface. I hope you guys have a great day. Take care. God bless. I'll see you in the next video. Boom.